And I hope that my BFF, Jen Taylor, doesn't text me throughout this whole thing like she's doing, or else I'm going to be like touching my screen, scrolling her messages out of the way. Jen. Hello.
FYI, Jen.
Just let me know when to start, Anne Marie, since I can't see
Take
anything.
it away.
Okay,
Okay,
great. We're ready?
yes.
Wonderful. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining this workshop. My name is Jessica Del Mundo, and I'm here to lead PR and brand magic. And those of you that were expecting to see Anne Marie, what was her name? And she was going to do something on Instagram originally.
Yes, Jovi Galit from Canada. Unfortunately, she has a fever, so let's send some good healing energy her way, so she's not able to make today or tomorrow.
Yes, I'm sorry, guys. If you were coming to hear about Instagram, I don't have anything to share except follow me on Instagram. So, anyways, so thank you for taking the time to join. I know this was a last minute substitution for the conference, but I know the great work that Anna Marie does, and I'm super excited to share some tips and knowledge with all of you on PR and brand magic. And you might be wondering, how did I come up with that kooky name for this workshop? Well, Anna Marie said, come up with something clever and interesting. And I originally told her, I can share with all the entrepreneurs just like some PR 101 facts and, kind of talk about the difference between PR and branding, because a lot of people don't know the difference. And so, when I think about it, there's things that people want to have clarified. What's PR? What's branding? What's advertising, and what's marketing? Those are some very basic questions that some of you may already know, or maybe you don't. But what I'll do is kind of share with you those differences, and I'll give you some tips as to what I tell a lot of my clients when they're asking the same PR questions. So before we get started, let me tell you about my brand. So who I am. And, this is kind of an interesting way for you to think about your brand as well, because there's 3 different ways I could introduce myself to you. First, you could hear the information on my bio or read it. I'm executive director of 10 Story House, which is a private PR communications agency based in LA. And we have offices in San Francisco, New York, and Atlanta. I'm also secretary of SIPA, which is Search to Involve Filipino Americans. I'm on their board of directors. And I'm also the co-founder and editorial director of a new lifestyle online site called Brave New Girl. I'm super excited about that. That's really been my passion project lately. And of course, I'm also a writer and producer. So as you've heard me just introduce my brand to you in those, few sentences, think about your brand. How would you introduce yourself? Because now you've heard a little bit about me, you're listening maybe to thinking about the qualifications maybe I shared with you, but I can also introduce myself to you another way, which is this. The second way I'd introduce myself, my identity, my brand to you is, hi, I'm Jessica. I'm married for 18 years. I'm a mom to 2 kids. I have a son named Jace, he's 14, and I have another son named Cade, who's 10. And my whole life is really around these boys. Everything they do is what I spend a lot of my free time on. And now with the current climate, it's going to be interesting how I support these activities. But because of my kids, I'm super excited to get involved with organizations like their schools. So one is ABVM, Assumption School in Pasadena. I also support the Loxa Foundation, which is the LA County High School for the Arts in LA, where my son goes to school. And I love the National Children's Chorus, as well as Culture Shock Los Angeles. Those are my 2 passion projects because of my kids. They're both involved in those. And of course, you'll see me on the weekends, usually before the virus had taken over. I was always on the fields watching Little League baseball, watching my boys. So there's the second way I introduced myself to you, 2 very different ways. So I gave you my brand as a professional, and I kind of gave you more of my personal brand as a mom and as a community participant. That's kind of my second identity. And then the third way I would introduce myself to you, let's say we were out having, a girls' virtual, happy hour, or you were meeting me through one of my friends, like Jen Taylor. You were asking me about myself, or even maybe this is the way I would like introduce myself if I had I don't know, a Tinder profile, which I don't. But if I did, I would say, hi, my name's Jessica. I love Hawaii. I love everything about the Hawaiian culture. I love island food. I love island music. I'm also a huge Scrabble fan and a proud word nerd. So I will edit any written document in front of me that has a mistake. And I love, like, annoying my husband by correcting things that he says. And also my favorite brands right now are Starbucks and Spotify, also Hint Water. And I love and I'm obsessed with Esprit. So that's the third way I just introduced myself to you. As you can see, my brand is very different. Whether I'm talking to you from a professional perspective, I'm talking to you from like kind of a community organization mom perspective, and I'm talking to you as maybe a friend or somebody you're meeting for the first time that just wants to know my personal interests. And so as I shared that example with you for you to get a little bit more information about me and who I am, I want you to think about your brand because you have so many different ways you can introduce yourselves. And it should be so easy for you as you're either introducing yourself as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, or as, just somebody meeting a new face or a new investor. Think about the three different ways you can introduce yourself because really that's what brand is all about. A brand is your identity. It could be your personal identity. It could be your product's identity. It could be your company's identity. There's different brands that you have. And so that's the first that I kind of just want to lay out for everyone. Hope that makes sense. But I'll give you a little bit more of an overview now about this workshop. So we're going to go into what is PR, what is branding and the differences. And I'll take a break between these different subject matters. So if you want to jump in and ask questions, or if I said something that totally doesn't make sense, feel free to interrupt me and ask questions. So I'll talk with you first now about what is PR, branding, and all the different disciplines that fall under marketing. Next, I'm going to go over the 5 PR tools that every entrepreneur needs. And this is actually a very simple list. You guys probably already have some of these things done, but if you don't, these are things that I want you to take notes on. And these are the tools that you will need in that first few months of getting started. Next, after that, I would share with you really my thoughts on, how can you do PR, in your daily work? How do you identify PR opportunities? What does that mean? And how can somebody help you identify PR opportunities? What should you be looking for? And then last but not least, I'll talk about big PR on a tiny budget, because the misnomer is that PR is so expensive and you can't afford it unless you've, already made so much in revenue. But the truth of the matter is you can have PR on any budget, on any scale. So we'll talk about how to get the biggest PR on even the tiniest budget. So those are the overview. And then at the end, I'll go into a Q&A. You can ask me anything you'd like. As I mentioned, I'm here in Los Angeles, and I also consult a lot of small businesses and entrepreneurs, and I'm happy to take more questions or set up more time with you if this is interesting. So again, what is PR? What is branding? Does anybody out there listening have an idea of what PR is? Want to share what you think the definition of PR is? Anyone? Or you want me to tell you, right? That's why you came up to this workshop. Okay. Well, I will tell you first a little anecdote. The first anecdote is this. A boy likes a girl, okay? If the boy tells the girl that he's handsome and he's rich and he's the greatest guy she's ever met, that is called advertising, okay? Now, if the boy tells the girl that she's beautiful and she's smart, she's one of a kind, that's what we call marketing. And if the boy gets to the girl's best friend and tells that best friend to tell the girl that he's the kindest, sweetest, smartest bachelor out there and that she should go out with him, that's PR. And so really what's wonderful about PR is getting someone to say that you're good, your brand is good. Advertising is saying it yourself. The beauty of PR is you need that third party for credibility. You need that third party that is a trusted voice for your target audience. So in this example, that BFF to the girl that he's trying to attract, she's able to do the heavy lifting for him, and she can do the work and say something about the guy that's going to be so much more credible to the girl. And it really puts him in a positive light. And so that's what PR is. And that's a good way to kind of distinguish PR from marketing and from advertising. Now, when you look at the whole world of communications for your brand, Marketing is the umbrella, okay? And under that umbrella is where everything else falls. Under marketing umbrella, you have advertising, you have PR, you have branding, you have social media, you have promotions, you have events, you have all that other stuff. That is all what falls under marketing. And so every business obviously needs marketing, no matter how big or small. And so that's why when you create a business plan or when you first get started, you need a marketing plan, right? So every business plan typically incorporates a marketing plan. So if you don't have a marketing plan right now, consider this, that marketing is generally 10% of your annual revenue. So your annual budget for marketing should be 10% of what you make each year. And within that 10%, at minimum, PR should be 25% of your marketing budget. So if you can spend up to 30%, sometimes even up to 50% of your marketing budget on PR, that's a really smart brand that cares a lot about relationships, reputation, and authenticity. So as you're thinking about your marketing plan, think, okay, what am I spending on PR? Maybe you're spending nothing, and I have some clients and other folks I've talked to that try to start out spending 10% because that's all they can afford. And that's okay, because maybe that means all you're going to do that year is get business cards and do some networking and maybe, get some advice from a PR professional about a product launch, but you're going to do everything else on your own. So if you want to just, spend 10% of that marketing budget, that's really what you can expect. But PR is so trusted in business because it can produce the best content for any brand or any event, any product. And it will simultaneously do that by essentially improving your market efforts and outcome. Think of PR as that amplifier for your brand message. There is nothing more trusted under the marketing umbrella than public relations. Any questions about that before I continue? Hope that makes some sense to everyone if you haven't thought of PR in that way. Now, as it relates to PR and branding, which is the purpose of this workshop, to talk to you guys about PR and branding magic. First, I want you to realize that PR is one element, like I said, under the marketing umbrella. And it's one way that a marketing communications team can support a brand or branding. So when you first start your business and you're thinking about your brand, what comes first, PR or the brand? It's the brand. You've got to have a brand first because PR is what then comes in and helps to manage that brand. Branding is the first step you should do. Okay. When you're starting a business, starting to launch a new product, you've really got to understand your brand. And what we say is the first step is to create that identity, right? As I talked to you in the beginning of the workshop, I introduced myself and I helped share with you my identity. Branding for your product, your business is centered on that identity. Okay. Think about how that identity is going to be received from investors, consumers, media, when you're speaking in public, when you're dealing with problems, crisis communications. That brand is always the center of that. And what PR does is manage that brand and that identity with its relationship with the rest of the world. And so what's wonderful is PR is really the magic that brings your brand to life. The other thing that PR can do for you is it will help your brand identify its target audience. Now, you may already know your target audience, but what PR does is say, okay, if you don't know your target audience, we'll help identify it. But if you do know your target audience, we're going to help you connect with them and we're going to help them find you relevant and they're going to care about you. And PR is going to manage now your brand's interaction with your target audience. So again, just to reiterate, branding comes first. You can't engage in PR without first knowing your brand. And that's the difference between PR and branding. Now, there's branding agencies and branding experts out there that do just that. They help you identify your brand, and that's a fantastic skill. If you don't know how to do that on your own, you can bring somebody on board to help you, but not all branding experts can do PR. However, all PR experts usually can do branding because they understand what it takes, what kind of message, what kind of identity is most attractive to your target audiences, to your media, etc. I'm hearing a little bit of noise on the call. Is there somebody that's, rearranging their screen or has a question? No? Oh, they just got quiet. Sorry, I called you out. Okay. So anyways, now I'm going to continue on why your brand relies so much on PR. If you just had a brand and no PR, all of your communication efforts would be very scattered, um, ineffective, even inconsistent is really the scary part. And at the end of the day, a waste of money. So once you identify your brand and you feel like you've gotten into a good place, you might not even have it finessed. Bring in a PR person to help you work through and make sure, yes, that's a great brand. It's authentic to you. And you know what? I can see how this is going to resonate with your target audience. And I can see how this brand is going to make noise in the media world. I can see its newsworthiness. And that's what PR does. It comes in and it helps you make that brand do even more than you thought before. So, what are some of the parts of a brand, right? When you're thinking about branding yourself? Well, a brand is also your logo. It's the colors of your, company, the colors of your business card, right? How you use that logo in marketing collateral, whether it's a website, a business card, letterhead, your social media. That's all your branding efforts. And so your branding comes across all these different mediums of marketing collateral. And that's why consistency is super important. And that's why being effective in communicating that brand is important. And that's why you need to think about how PR can help. It's about identity. Remember this. And when you're asking, what does that mean? What's my identity? Well, when someone hears your brand, what are the emotions that you want them to feel? What's that first impression you want them to think about when they're considering your brand? That's how you can really hone in on the right description of your brand. And then remember, at the end of the day, the difference with branding and PR is that PR is relationship driven. It's all about building authentic relationships. What we do is we build those authentic relationships for your brand and your branding efforts. Okay, so that's the first part. How was that? Is that good? I got some nice little comments from some of you texting me. Anna Marie, are we good? Oh, thanks, Lourdes. I think you're awesome too. Okay, I think Anna Marie's probably just so busy taking notes. But we'll move on unless anybody has
So
any questions.
great, Jess. Sorry, I was on mute.
Okay, no worries, no worries. Anybody else have questions? I think now you can go out there yourself and you can be like, hey, I know the difference between PR and branding. So I will move on now to the 5 PR tools that every entrepreneur needs. Okay, so this is super simple, and you guys have, I'm sure, half of these things done. But my question is, you may have these things, but are they effective? Okay, so for any entrepreneur, any individual really that's trying to start something, whether it's a project or it's a new product or nonprofit, whatever, one of the most important business strategies to first establish upfront is having the right PR tools in place. Okay, so what does that mean? The first PR tool is your bio. Okay, you probably think, oh, I've got a bio. Now, the bio is not your resume, it's not your CV, it's not that. It's actually a very short, 100 words maybe, of a well written description about you based off of your experience, your expertise. It describes and it showcases your career in a very factual but genuine way. Okay. So it doesn't read like your resume. Okay. It's telling the story. And so a bio typically is 100 words. Okay. It can be a page if you're doing something like this, like a conference, and people want to read about your experience. It could be much more than 100 words, or it could be what we call a micro bio. And a micro bio is usually 1 or 2 sentences, right? And in that sense, when you're thinking about, oh, what's my 1 or 2 sentence microbio? It's that quick identity description that you just gave. When I introduced myself to you guys up front, I told you real quickly, I'm a mom and I got these kids and they do all these great things. I mean, that was probably my quick microbio. And then when I told you about, oh, I love Hawaii and I love island food and music and I love these brands, that's my microbio, right? It's that elevator pitch that you want to give somebody to remember you and think, oh, this person's interesting, or this person has an interesting brand. I want to get to know more about them. But the written bio, the short bio, is a 100 words or less. Experience highlighted, expertise highlighted. It's showcasing the best stuff of your career. and what you bring to the table. So how do you start with your bio? Well, first get your resume, most recent version, okay, your CV, whatever you have on LinkedIn, and take that information and do an inverted pyramid, if you will. Yes, and Jen, like you wrote here, one of the gals wrote, she has several versions of her bio. There are several versions you could have. I always stick with at least minimum of 3, right? Stick with your bio for your target audience, which is usually that consumer or that client that you're trying to attract. Stick with your bio for, that professional peers audience that, is kind of more, not necessarily somebody you're selling to, but needs to understand your expertise. And then stick with your micro bio, right? Have those at minimum, but you can have more. You could have a bio that's just for your nonprofit audience, a bio for your in-laws. You could have a bio for your, prospective recruiters, right? So, and it might even be different topics. You might use a bio that's just talking about the fact that you make this really great product, and another bio that talks about, well, you're actually, a fitness expert, right? So you can have different ones, absolutely. But what's most important is up front is have the most compelling experience, expertise. Start off with something that is relevant to now, and have multiple versions, like I said, for different situations, different audiences. Last but not least, it has to be written well. Okay. So this is where a PR person can really help you. If you're not a good writer, or if you don't know how to do what I just described, get a PR person or an editor or a skilled writer to do it for you. It makes a huge difference. I've had colleagues who are CEOs and running Fortune 500 companies, and they've had somebody, writing up their bios and but couldn't do it themselves. And then they'll come to me and say, Jess, I just need a fresher version of this bio because I'm going to this, investors meeting. Or Jess, I'm talking to the Wall Street Journal and I need to submit this quick bio. What should the Wall Street Journal audience see? And I'll take their version and I'll create a brand new one just for Wall Street Journal. So, you can have multiple versions. You can fresh it up at any time, but have like that file, in your file online of all your different bios and get ready to pull them out. If you need help writing that, that's what people like me are for. Okay, so that's the first tool. Next tool is networking, effective networking. I hate networking. Okay, networking is that word that basically means to me that I've got to go after hours and meet people and miss my kids and stuff. But no, no, no. Networking is not that. This is what I mean by effective networking as one of your PR tools. You need to consciously, regularly connect with people who have interest in what you do or what you sell. What this networking tool will do for you, if you really practice it and exercise it, kind of like, a muscle, right? You go to the gym, you don't want to do it, but you do it, right? Networking is going to help you build your reputation. And it might be building your reputation with the neighbor down the street, or with your, boyfriend's colleagues, or with your, a community group. It doesn't matter. Regularly connect with anyone that has interest in what you do or what you sell. Okay. Building reputation is one of the easiest, simplest things that you can do, and it's free and it's in your hands. Okay. And people take this for granted because they think about networking as, oh, I've got to go to my alumni group and meet all these strangers. And well, you know what? If your alumni group doesn't care about what you do or what you sell, and they're not going to support a fellow, alum, then don't go to that event. Now, I go to alumni events because I belong to a very loyal alumni network. I went to USC, okay, and USC, crazy Trojans, right? We are diehard Trojans for life, and they will support someone just because they're a Trojan. So I know going to those events is very worthwhile. Sometimes Trojans just hire Trojans, but also, maybe it's, a parent group at your kid's school, and they're looking for some help, volunteer help, and they're putting together a marketing committee. Well, I would go to that because they're interested in what I do. And even though this is not necessarily going to result in, a paid client in terms of my kid's school, I bet you all the other parents volunteering there are in industries that are interested in marketing communications, or they're interested in PR. And when they meet me and they learn what I'm doing and volunteering for the school, I'm building my reputation in the community now as an expert. And so think about that. Think about all the different pockets of your life where there's people you can connect with that will have interest in what you do or what you sell. Now, my last tip on this networking subject is, remember, networking is not always about talking. Okay. It's not about going in the room and going, hey, I'm so great. Networking is really about listening. Okay. Build relationships by investing time to find out about others, find out about what your audience, the girl next door, the person across the table from you, invest the time to find out what they're interested in, and you will build better relationships than sitting there and talking all about you and selling. Don't go in with that mentality. Go in with about listening and trying to find the most interesting people who have interest also in what you do or what you sell. Okay, so that's tool number 2. Now, tool number 3. This is probably the tougher one. It's PR strategy. Okay. Now, what does that mean? And it's also social media strategy, I should say, because in this day and age, sometimes people can just do social media. But you need effective PR strategy in your toolbox. Ask yourself, how will you pitch your product or you best to the media and to your audiences? How can you even write a pitch? Do you know what that means? If I said, hey, you guys need a PR pitch for this, what does that mean? Where do you start? Well, first of all, what are we trying to sell? What are we trying to talk about here? What are we trying to convey? Well, when we understand that, we next need to understand who is the right audience for this message. You can figure out your PR strategy by first reading relevant media, relevant sites, relevant people. Do the research. Look at those magazines, those online sites, those newspapers, those publications, those radio stations, those TV stations, the blogger, whoever it is, who is relevant to your pitch. Once you are aware of who that audience is, and you're also aware of what your clients and your customers are asking you about or what they want most, you can give them what they're asking for. You can give them what they need. Also, read not only those relevant media that are mostly consumer publications, but read industry trades relevant to you or to your product. Okay, so if you have a CBD business, right, then read all the industry trades about cannabis and know it inside and out. Because if that's part of your industry, you need to know what your industry is reading and following and talking about, because that's how you're going to best develop your pitch. And you'll now be able to use that information on developing PR strategy. Because when you read and you understand, these consumer publications, these trades, you're going to be able to not only spot trends and be timely and know what everyone's talking about, but you're going to also identify sources. You're going to identify writers and journalists who are talking about things that you could have a say in. And so think about PR strategy as all the things you need to read and understand, and then how it's going to help you develop that message, right? Last but not least, with PR strategy is website. If you don't have a website already, put something up. Put something up that's even a simple photo with like 2 sentences. I mean, it doesn't need to be super comprehensive, but you need to have a website presence. That's the first step, especially if you're going to develop a social media strategy and you want to show that you're legit. Now, bear in mind, there are some exceptions to this rule. A lot of entrepreneurs and businesses just have Instagram, and that works too. Depending on the kind of business you are, depending on the kind of service you offer, Instagram might be all you need. I have a client who is an up and coming photographer, and she is incredibly, ridiculously talented. And she's just, a photographer as a hobby. She actually works for Children's Hospital in LA as her full time job. But she is probably one of the most talented photographers I've ever seen. And I've worked with photographers that have shot for, InStyle and Vogue and, all the big celebrity photographers. And she just said, what can I do to get started? I want to have this like side photography business. And because her elements are so visual, she just needs an Instagram. That's all she needs to do. And she just needs a proper social media strategy where she's tagging the right words that are going to get people to find her photography and then want to hire her. Eventually, when she's got a great robust list of, clients and photos to share, she can build that website. But for something like that, she can just do it on social media. But that's PR strategy. There's a lot more to it. And to try to figure out what your PR strategy is, to go in depth, you really should talk to a PR professional. The fourth tool is that timely media pitch. Okay, we talked about this a little bit earlier when you're trying to understand your brand and you're trying to understand what, messages you want to put out in the community. But you should know what your pitch is. What's the pitch for your product or what's the pitch for you? And you'll know what to write if you know who you're writing to. I mean, you're probably seeing a lot of similar messages here in my workshop. It's always understanding your target audience, understanding the kind of stories that they want, right? And also understand timing to deliver your pitch. I've had a number of clients this past week who are about to launch products and launch new businesses and new services. And I said, no, we're not doing it. Unless your business is tied to something helpful for the coronavirus, you're not going to do something stupid and self-serving message about, hey, I've got this brand new product that you should buy. If it, timing is everything with PR as well. You've got to know the right time to deliver your messages. So understand as you think about your pitch, think about, timing. Think about what's happening in the world and not just in the industry, but all around you. And how does that impact your pitch? Because you might have a really great pitch about a product, but you're thinking, oh, it's right now kind of crazy time with the pandemic. Well, if you're aware of that, maybe there's a way that what's happening in the world is going to impact your pitch. I have another client who works in financial services, and one of the things that we uncovered, she was actually going to launch a new platform, a financial platform. It had nothing really to do with like coronavirus or anything like that, but we thought about, okay, maybe there's a message here where we can talk about this new platform in the sense of how it's helping your senior clients, your senior investors who are stuck at home and worried about their money. Maybe that's the way we can spin this and make it not about, hey, we're launching this new product, but make it about, you know what, this is a scary time. You're worried about your finances. You're worried about your wealth management. We've come up with a tool to help you. If you are worried and just need someone to talk to, give us a call. She didn't sell really hard on this new, fancy platform and all the things she did to make it so. She just went in there and gave her target audience a message they needed to hear. And she was able to insert herself in that story. So as she pitched the product, she actually gave them something much more meaningful and relevant. So think about that. Think about your pitch. And then last but not least, the fifth tool is, and I'm going to just look at the clock to make sure I have a lot of time left. The fifth tool is the media list. Okay, the media list. This is gold. This is probably what most people pay PR people for, because let's keep it real. Media lists are expensive, and the reason they're expensive is because PR people subscribe to these services that cost $3,000, $5,000 a year, subscription database basically, where we can find out all the current reporters, journalists, producers, contacts, you name it, bloggers, and it's constantly up to date by companies like Cision or companies like PR Newswire and whatnot. So that media list is gold in PR. And if you don't have a media list and you don't have the resources to get a PR person to help you build a media list, you can make a media list. You're going to start out small and you're going to have to do a lot of research, but you can do it. You can create an effective, active media list that is really going to reach your target audience by first, one, find your audience. As you're reading those magazines and those trades, start making notes. Identify the name of the journalist that wrote that article that has something to do with your industry. Put that journalist's name in a grid in a database, add their email address, the name of the publication, and boom, you started a media list. And keep identifying those contacts in your industry trades or in, let's say you love reading Huffington Post, right? And there's a fantastic writer that just talks about, food. And that's your industry. Keep tabs on her stories, put her name in there, put her email address, her Twitter, her social media. Have this database that you can create and categorize, and you can regularly update this list. Sort it by topic, sort it by interest, sort it alphabetically, whatever. But start building that media list for your brand. And that, my friends, is going to be one of the most valuable tools you'll have. And you can do it yourself. It takes time to build on your own, or you can get a PR person to help you. But that's it. Those are my 5 PR tools that every entrepreneur needs. Hope that was helpful. And I'm going to go into the next subject because I know we've got a few more minutes and the last 2 are pretty quick before I do a Q&A with everyone. But I've been talking a lot and I don't like that. So if anyone wants to say anything or questions before I move on? No? Okay, yes. Thank you, Pat. I will recap the 5 points once more. And I'm sorry you don't have this in front of you, but I'm giving you guys free advice. So I can't give you everything in written form. But the 5 PR tools that every entrepreneur needs. Number 1, an effective, well-written short bio. Number 2, networking. Number 3, PR strategy, or social media strategy. And that's, again, those steps that you're taking to read the right media, the right audiences, even creating a website. That's all PR strategy. Okay. When you list it out, you're going to have pages soon and you'll have like a great PR strategy piece. Number 4 is that media pitch, okay? And it's knowing what kind of story you're going to write, the best time to deliver that message. You're thinking about all those things, how your pitch might change based on what's happening in the world. And then last but not least, the media list, that effective, active media list, which helps you reach your target audience. Okay? So those are the 5 PR tools. Now, identifying PR opportunities. How do you do that besides having a publicist on board or a PR professional to help you? It's very simple, guys. Identifying PR opportunities is just as simple as picking up the newspaper or reading your favorite blog. Read, read, read. This is what a lot of your PR professionals are doing and what they're good at. They're the kid that grew up saying, I love to read. They read everything. Most PR people are either, if not former journalists like myself, they are just news junkies and they read regularly, not only about the industries that interest them, but the industries that their clients are in. PR people take a lot of pride in investing in information that is relevant to their client. And that's why I love doing PR, because I suddenly get to become an expert on commercial real estate, or I suddenly get to become an expert on quick service food restaurants or men's grooming or nonprofits. I dive so deep in as a PR person into those industries because I'm reading all the media that talks about them, and I'm consuming the stories that matter to them, and I'm understanding the people in that industry. So read regularly about your industry and read regularly about the people in your industry, because they might be competitors, they might be colleagues, but read about what they're doing too. And that's going to help you in terms of identifying your next PR opportunity. Also, ask questions and search and connect. That's part of that networking message I gave you earlier. But to identify PR opportunities, just ask, search the internet, search social media, look up hashtags that are relevant, look up traditional media, go on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Have those be an active part of your strategy as well for marketing, and those will help you identify opportunities. As I mentioned, you can also do simple things as asking your current clients or your colleagues or your friends and family, join sites, join teams, join your peers. PR opportunities are everywhere. It's all within your network and it's all online and it's offline in your community. I mean, everyone needs PR. Everyone has PR opportunities. My last point I'll say is, it's a good idea if you've got an established competitor in your field, check out their newsroom. I bet you on their website, they've got a newsroom and you're going to see the kind of stories they put out. You're going to see the kind of press releases they wrote, what coverage they've been included in. And that'll help you see what the, competitors are doing, how they're thriving, where they're getting their stories out. And that'll help you identify your own PR opportunities. Okay. And then last but not least for this workshop, big PR on a tiny budget. Okay. Anyone can afford PR, guys. It's just a matter of adjusting your expectations. Okay. Whether you have $100 or you've got $1,000 or you've got $100,000. And seriously, PR budgets are typically that. You can have as much PR as you can afford, professional PR. But first, determine your goals, okay? Determine your goals that should be your priority, right? Is your goal in your business or as an entrepreneur or as a leader in your community, is your goal meeting people? Is it building relationships with investors or with certain folks that are going to buy your product? Or is your goal for PR, I just want to get some kind of coverage. I want a story written about us. And I want one story in 1 year, or I want 1 to 2 stories every 3 months, or I want one story every week. Okay. I have clients that are saying to me, Jess, okay, our benchmark is 10 stories a month. Okay, hey, you want that? That's great. This is what it costs because that's my time to get you stories like that. I've got to invest in a long period of time to be able to generate that kind of coverage, right? But for you, you don't need 10 stories a month. Get creative, okay? Think about what is it that's most important and skip the time sucking admin, okay, of what PR can do too. Things like media monitoring, which I've just talked to you about, reading news, creating your own database, those are traditional PR admin costs that will eat up your budget. Okay. And that's why PR budgets are so high. It's because they've got people doing these time sucking activities. And ask yourself, what can I handle in house to save budget? Maybe what I can do is I can make my own media list. I can draft my own pitch. And I just need, this PR person to help me get it out there. Or maybe I can't do those things and I need that PR person to write it, but I only need one story. So maybe I can only afford this amount. So, think about what you can do creatively to PR and pivot, as you're trying things. If the success is slow on a small budget, maybe you're going to say, I'm going to try out $500 a month on PR and I'm going to see if I can get anything on that. And maybe what you got out of that is one pitch, right? But that's one pitch you didn't have before. And that's a pitch that actually you're using in the community and seeing is like translating into sales or translating into new relationships, right? Or translating into positive reputation. Maybe that's how you start that small budget. And next month, it's not about getting a pitch, but you're going to continue that $500 and you're going to try to get all your PR materials lined up or somebody to make your website wonderful and somebody to look at it, or getting a blog that you've wanted to be a part of, getting them to include you. So, pivot. You can always pivot PR on a small budget. You can change the goals each month, but think about what's most important that you need to do, and always highlight your work. Okay, highlight the work that you've done, the good things that you've accomplished, the maybe never before seen in the industry, thing that you're offering. Showcase your successes. That's PR too, and you can have somebody help you do that in an affordable, authentic way. But that's PR on a tiny budget. What that really means is I'm trying to give you ideas of things that you can do for free, and things that you can do maybe on a smaller budget. Because I will share with you, sometimes people ask, and I see questions about this all the time, what does it cost for PR? Really depends who you are. I will tell you that fees vary, but there are industry standards that hold true. Um, Most clients pay by a monthly retainer, um, and usually that monthly retainer can go anywhere from 2,500 a month to 100,000 a month or more. I have had clients that pay anywhere in that scale, and it all depends. If you're on a retainer, it's because you've got a healthy marketing budget and you understand that PR needs to be an ongoing part of it. People typically invest in PR for a minimum of 1 year. It doesn't mean you can't do it for 3 months or 6 months. You guys are all entrepreneurs just starting out. But you do save on retainers. You save an average of like 25% versus hiring somebody just to do one-off projects. And you definitely save more than hiring a PR professional on their hourly fee, because hiring a PR professional, depending on their years of experience, but somebody like, with my years of experience, those hourly fees are very high. It's like budget to pay for an attorney or a professional like that. So just reconsider and think about what can you do on a small budget, and I can also help you identify some of those things. Most PR people will do a free initial call with you, so take advantage of that. Get 30 minutes on the phone with them and pick their brain, and that'll at least help you get started and maybe start to think about, okay, what can I carve out in my marketing budget in the future? So there's different ways to go about it. Some PR people will barter services. So that's another thing too, is maybe somebody's going to help you with PR. And, I've got this great relationship with one of the entrepreneurs in Hi-Fi, historic Filipino town. He cannot afford PR, but he says, Jess, can you just help me? And I love his business so much and I love his food. He says, I'm going to feed you anytime you come in here. I said, you got it. That's a deal. And actually I pay for lunch every time I see him because he needs to survive. But there are ways to work with people that care about your brand or your business. They will help you. So that's it. I'm now at, I think, the last part of this workshop, which is Q&A. Anna Marie, how are we doing? I've got like 15 minutes left, right?
This is so good.
Oh, you're on mute again.
Can you hear me?
Oh, good. I'm like, you people like me.
Oh, no, this is so good. And I know this costs a lot of money if we were to, we're getting so much information in such a short amount of time that if we were to actually have a one-on-one consult, it would probably be 5 or 6 sessions. So this is just so amazing, Jess. I really took a lot of great notes. I'm going to rewatch the video after this too. But yeah, we've got some time for Q&A. We have about 15 minutes. So please take advantage of this. Okay, we've got a raised hand. Lourdes.
So with a media list, I guess I'm not very familiar with it. I just launched my website, which yeah, I agree. I think makes me legit. And also like just all my information is in there, and then I kept it simple. Just like the things that I wanted. But like with the media list, yeah, maybe I wanted to have like one story like a Filipina growing flowers in the heart of Canada because it's really cold in here, and I want that relevant. Do like with the media list, my brother-in-law is actually in he's a writer, he's a editor in one of the network here. But do I get someone to write it for me, to cover me? Is that what it is?
So media list is a database. It's like your address book. Okay. So think about it from the perspective of you're going to build a contact list that is all the media people that you want to be, hearing your story, hopefully covering you, the media that you love to read that's relevant to your brand. And it's knowing not only the name of the publication or the outlet, but the name of the journalist or the producer or the writer or the contributor that is in that magazine or that outlet, having their email, having their phone number, having their Instagram, their Twitter, knowing who they are. And you just create a database of all these contacts, because the next time you have an announcement to make or you're ready to put out a press release, boom, you've got like then 50 names that you could send it out to, completely targeted people that want to hear your message, right? It's not a random media list. It's a media list of journalists that care about what you are talking about or what you're selling or what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so for example, so I have MailChimp, so I'm getting subscribers. So in maybe if it's just like a target information I want to put out there, so do I just automatically like send it to them? Like so it will be like more a focused like email that if, for example, like this maybe something about spring, like once my tulips are up, and is that like I write an article and then I include them to send that.
Well, so mailing list or an email chip kind of situation like that, that's consumers, that is potential clients, that's maybe some media, maybe your mom and dad, your best friends on that list. That's like a whole broad target audience, right? So that's important to have, because if they've subscribed to your mailing list and they want to hear news from you, wonderful, keep that up. But a media list is different. It's just journalists. And it's very specific because you could have a journalist on your MailChimp list because they wanted to sign up. But when you're targeting on that list, you're sending them something personalized and very specific. And the banner might be generic in every single email. It's going to say, Dear Joan at NBC, I know you write on this subject matter. I think this would be interesting. And then you've got that pitch. The next one is, Dear Trevor at IMDb or whatever. Here's for a thought for your next column. So that's the how you're going to put that media list to life, is you're then going to blast out individualized, targeted messages to the media.
Okay, get it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. I saw hands go up, but I don't know. Do I touch the hand?
Jen has Jen has 2 questions.
Okay.
Then
Can
we'll
you
go
hear
to
me?
Leica.
Hi, can you hear
Yes.
me? Hi.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is so great, Jessica. Thank you. Totally speaking my language. But you kind of, I think, answered my question, because I know you're talking about when you're finding journalists and creating that, we're trying to do this on a budget, let's say, and we're trying to build up the database. What would you say is the best way to build the rapport? Because I understand, and I've heard from different people in media, like, don't just expect like you're just going to blast a pitch or message. Like, what would you suggest is the best way to start building rapport? Should we start following them on Twitter, commenting on their stuff? Like, what would your advice be for that?
So for me, it's, first of all, when I do a launch for a major product, I actually go out to like my top 10, 20 contacts. I'm not sending it to like 100 random media. There might be 100 media on my list that would be interested, but I start very targeted, very strategic, because I say, hey, you know what? I really want this in Fast Company, and I want it in Ink, and I want it in, Newsweek, but I don't necessarily want it in, this local newspaper.
Mhm.
What I do is those publications that I really want stories in, I follow my reporters, my writers, the contributors that are writing about stories that I care about. And they're stories that either are relevant to a particular client. Like, for example, I have a men's grooming client, right? And they do a lot of advertising in GQ. So what we started to do is we started to look at, not only GQ is all about, men's lifestyle and grooming, but there was actually, a reporter who not only contributed to GQ, but also wrote for Forbes magazine. And so that's somebody I was like, okay, we got to become this person's best friend. And so we started reading their stories on GQ and then realized they were also writing for Forbes, and then started looking at their social media and discovered that this journalist just wants people to follow him. And so we started following him on everything, Twitter, Instagram. He had a blog that we would read. And so when I would send him an email, I could actually tell him, oh, hey, I just read that piece you wrote. Oh my God, we loved it. Would you consider this next time? Or I could say to them, hey, we know you just, had a debacle with your shaver. We're going to send you this awesome shave cream that's going to make a difference. You might have heard of us. So it's always like very timely, targeted. It's like writing and connecting to somebody that you actually do know, right? And it's not about just blindly sending something, because it's going to go nowhere. I can tell you this: if you got a PR agency saying, okay, we're going to blast your product and your message to 100 outlets, yeah, you'll probably get 10% of that to come back, because just the odds of sending 100 samples out. But if you want it to really be effective, you got to look at that media list of yours, and you got to identify the people that you really care about, that want that message and will want to hear about your product or your service.
Okay, perfect. So my second question, thank you for that.
Oh,
My second
but
question
also
is
your
also,
brother, your relative, dude, tap that source. Okay. I mean, you need to ask him,
yeah,
hey, can you, get this, some coverage or some love? I mean, it's all about relationships, and that's the difference.
definitely. So I was wondering, because I just published a book about relationships and money, and I was going to write a press release. And I don't know if that was the right way to go, but I mean, of course, taking into consideration all the things that you've already said, it sounds like I should. Do you feel that I should focus my efforts on identifying journalists that focus on relationships, finances, those types of things, and do this thing that you were just talking about? Be very concentrated and
Absolutely.
focus on who I'm targeting.
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
100%. But because you are going after them, if you can still do the press release, right? The press release is not the expensive part of this. Just so you know, an easy one-page press release, a PR professional might charge you anywhere from $500 to do that to $1,500, depending on what the release is about and how long it is. So if you want to invest in getting a really good press release done by a professional, get it written. What costs expensive with a press release is the distribution. Is if you're going to put that up on a news wire, then you're looking at a $3,000 expense that nobody writes off. That's just a hard cost. So get the press release written, though, because even though you're going to pitch your targeted contacts, you want to say to them, hey, there's also a press release with more information. That's what the press release is. The press release is all the details that no one wants to read unless they're really interested, right? But the pitch has to get them in first. The pitch says to that reporter, hey, guess what? We're doing this, we're launching this, but all the details are in our press release. And then have that press release sitting on your website, in a newsroom, or just wherever it can be. Have it on your, a clip or a quote from it on your Twitter, and source it back to somewhere, or just say, I can send you a press release with more information.
Do you suggest when you do the pitch that you give it already or wait for permission?
It depends. Never send attachments.
Mm.
Journalists don't like attachments unless they ask for them. I usually would do an excerpt, either give them the headline or give them a couple bullets from the press release, and then say, if you want more, we can send you the full press release. But if you're doing that, you got to send them the best bullets, the most relevant stuff that they're going to go, hey, that's interesting. I do write about this. I want to know more. Just don't send an attachment. You can send them a link. If you've got a link back to your website, and that's where the press release sits, that's
Links
what
are
you can
okay.
do. Yeah, links are fine.
Yeah, that's
If
what I
they click on
heard.
it and it goes to an unsecured site, then yeah, they're gonna bail out of there. Make sure they're, make sure you've got all the security set up on your site. What most brands do is they send links to their press release that exists either on their newsroom or on a news wire, and that's where it's really trusted, because it goes to PR Newswire or something. Excuse me. Excuse me. I've been talking too much.
Jess, what do you
Anyways,
think
is that
of
helpful?
Haro? What do you think of,
Haro,
especially for a low budget? Is that effective?
yes. So Haro, for those of you that don't know, is help a reporter out.
Yeah.
And it is a part of PR Newswire, and it's a part of Cision. Excuse me, sorry, no COVID, I swear. Okay, but Haro is great. If you've got to, you've got to subscribe, you've got to log in. It's free to submit queries, and excuse me, and it's free to respond to. And so journalists will say, I'm looking for an expert on lifestyle, and I want to talk to somebody with this. That they give you like a little box on the Haro site, and you can put in a few sentences. You can even put an attachment to your bio. So Haro is great, and it's free. So if you don't know about it, look it up for sure.
Okay, I want to get to
Anything
two
else?
last questions. We've got Leica, and then after that, we've got Pat.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, I'm gonna just
Hi.
drink something because I'm talking so much. Yes, go ahead, please.
I have a question. For example, I've already sent the pitch and written the press release. How long does it usually take for them to respond? And then is it of bad taste if I send it to like, if I send the same press release to like different news outlets, like, writers or reporters? Because then it won't be like an exclusive, if you know what I mean.
Right. Well, yes, and unfortunately, there is not a blanket answer for that. In general, you first of all make sure any press release that you are sending on behalf of your brand or company is a real, true, professional looking press release. A lot of people don't know what a press release is. If you want to Google Jessica Del Mundo, my name, and you'll see a press release or something, you'll see copies of my press releases online for different clients. And you'll see the format. It's a very specific format that is taught in not only journalism school, but PR school and whatnot.
Yeah.
But if your press release doesn't look like that, don't send it, because it's a red flag that you don't know what you're doing. So that's number one. Make sure your press release is legit. And if you don't know what that means, I'm happy to, if you want to forward it to me, I'm happy to look at it for you. So number two, if you are launching something that is, well, first tell me, what are you launching? Is it something exclusive, something new?
Oh, it's just for my business. I'm a photographer and I'm trying to launch a new product, like a new offering for, it's like more of just the more raw, more journalistic style of photography for families.
Okay. And what kind of media are you thinking of sending a press release to? And why, what's the message in the press release?
I haven't done the press release yet. I'm like trying to like figure out if
Okay.
that's a good way to go about. But in case like if
Okay.
I do it, because I know for weddings, I am subscribed to
Okay.
bright lights, and
Yep.
they grab press releases basically from wedding
So
photography.
my advice to you, because you have a couple photography clients, is number one, you probably don't need a press release. So a press release is something that is like an announcement of a brand new product that is not on the market, that nobody else has, or a service that is unbelievable, right? Or it's the launch of your company, your brand, that can be a press release. If you're opening up for the first time and now you're in business. But where does that go? It's hard for me to think of a lot of media that goes to, because photography is such a specialized, localized field that the people that are looking for, the talent are usually associated with like photo agencies, and it's a whole other world. So for me, it's like, if you're doing an offer, think about who is going to hire you. And to me, that's more of a social media play. That's more of a pitch to a database of your, people that are interested in your photography, people in your network, maybe a blog or two, maybe, a website that is about weddings and new photographers on the market, but it really depends. I don't know that I would do a press release for that unless you're trying to launch your company, your brand for the first time. I would